Does buying your first home seem impossible? I get it. The numbers, they're ugly. The average home costs 13 times more than the median income of 25 to 34-year-olds, if you can believe it. And at that price, you might feel like the first home you'll be buying is a nursing home. But don't give up on your home ownership dream just yet, because it is possible, and the two investors behind me are living proof. They bought their first home in their mid-20s, and they did it with a remarkably simple strategy anyone can follow. So let's find out what it is and how you can put it to work. You're watching Inside Investing. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Inside Investing, your guide to leveling up your investing skills with perspective from savvy DIY investors and financial pros. I'm your host, Rob Moise. We've got a show that's equal parts inspiring and instructive for you today, a home buying blueprint to help you conquer the odds that are stacked against you. And it's based on the lived experience of our two guest speakers. Let's bring them in. Joining us are Joyee Yang, founder of Joyee Yang Finance, and Reni Odetoyinbo, founder of Reni the Resource. They're both financial influencers with hundreds of thousands of followers across social media, and they did something incredible, buy their first home in their 20s. Joyee, Reni, great to have you both back with us.
Yeah,
thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having us again.
Thanks for having us.
We had so much fun in the panel that we did in October. I thought, I gotta bring you guys back. And you guys both did obviously something so incredible that a lot of people would strive to do, buying your first home so early in your life. So I want to hear how you guys did this. And Joyee, excuse me, let's start with you. Take us through the timeline. How did this all happen?
Yeah, of course. Well, my journey started when I was 19, when I got kicked out of my parents' house. We had some tension there. So when I left home, I was, I needed to make more money. I needed to do more than just saving money. So I Googled how to make money online and came across dividend stocks. And I built a strategy around dividend investing, and I had a goal of investing until I reached my goal of buying a condo at 25. So yeah, I built my strategy around that. And I was actually able to invest consistently and then bought my condo at 23. So 2 years ahead of schedule. Nice. Yeah, but that was my journey. And yeah, I was super nervous about the stock market, especially when I started. It was during the COVID times. Mm-hmm. So I was super nervous.
Yeah, very uncertain time for sure. Do you recall how much money you put down on that condo?
Ooh, I think it was around 15-20%. I don't remember what. I don't remember.
Talking roughly 100K or something like that? I'm thinking of Toronto condos at the time, pretty pricey.
110, 120 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Reni, take us through your process, because you didn't buy in the city of Toronto, you bought elsewhere. So how did this all come about?
Yeah, so mine's a little different. My parents taught me about investing, as many people know, from a very young age. So once I was 18, I actually started investing in the stock market, and I started investing consistently every 2 weeks. It's not like I was investing much, like $200 here, $250 here, but the more money I would make, the more money I would invest. And by the time I was 22 in 2019, my dad asked me, how much do you have in your investing account? And I was like, oh, I have $60,000. I was really excited about that. And my dad said, okay, now it's time for you to buy a house. And I was like, no, I live rent-free with you guys. Why would I go and buy a house? I was just like, why would I liquidate my portfolio to go and purchase this house? And my dad's like, no, you can just buy it to rent out to other people and you can still keep living with us. So I was like, okay. So I met with the real estate agent and everything, and eventually I was able to look at properties. I looked at properties outside of the GTA because it was a bit expensive here. I looked in Guelph, in Kitchener, and in London, Ontario, and then I eventually settled on London, and I purchased my first house there. It was about $345K for the purchase price, and I put down a full 20% because it was a rental property, so I had to. Mm-hmm. And I think it was about $60K of the investment money, and then about $10K of my savings that I had to hustle for the next year to save up because it was a pre-construction property. So I closed on it in May of 2020.
Okay, so about $70K down and stuff like that. So again, these are two pretty decent sized chunks of change that you guys had to both put down. And you did it in pretty short order, both of you. So I'm curious, Joyee, do you remember how much money were you plugging away at this goal per month? Do you recall?
Oh yeah, well, first of all, I was super new to the stock market. I remember depositing like $300 at first. It was like my first ever initial deposit into a brokerage. And then I immediately canceled the deposit because I'm like, no, I can't do this. Like, there's no way I'm gonna lose $300. I'm not smart, I don't know anything about the stock market. But then I gave myself a few more weeks and I was trying to convince myself. I was doing more research, I was watching more videos, reading more articles. And then I eventually put in the 300. And once I saw, I guess, my money kind of increasing, like, mind you, 5-10 cents, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is real. And like, my money is actually growing. Especially when I received my first dividend as well. So once I got more confidence doing that, I started investing $500 a month. And then the more consistent I was with it, the more confidence I built. So I increased it to $1,000 a month eventually. And then even when the market dips, I would add maybe like 2,000, 3,000. And I was very lucky to do that because I had 3 jobs. I worked a government job that covered my basic living expenses. And then I had serving as well and the bartending on the side. So I basically just saved like 90 to 100% of just like my side job in the stock market.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That's quite the hustle.
Yeah.
Three jobs, it's a lot to juggle. But I think it's pretty amazing too that you went from, I can't do this, I don't know anything, to, oh yeah, there's a market dip. Okay, I'm gonna toss like 2-3 grand in there. Like, that's a pretty incredible, path to take in just a few years. So I mean, kudos to you. And Reni, what about you? Like, do you remember how much you were plugging away at this down payment?
Yeah, so it just depended on how much money I was making at the time. So at first I was 18 working a part-time job. So at the time I think it was like $250 every 2 weeks that I would put in. And then the more money I made, so I got an internship at a bank, and then, I was also working my part-time job similar to you. So I would spend the money from my part-time job and then invest the money from my full-time job at the same time, and then went back to working, so it was back to my part-time. So it just depended, but it was at least $500 a month, sometimes $2,000 a month. So it just again depended. And once I graduated, that's when I was able to say, okay, now I have a lot more income. Not that I was making a crazy amount, but I was able to put a lot more into the stock market.
Yeah, that's actually so smart because I know that when people make more money,
Yeah.
they're spending more instead of saving more. So it's really good that we're able to save more.
Yeah, the lifestyle creep is real. Like, it's very easy to say, oh, I can afford this now.
Yeah.
And then you're actually not getting any more ahead if you do that. So very sage approach that you took for sure. So let's get into some of the tips that helped you guys get this incredible milestone, save up for a down payment so early, and ultimately make home ownership dreams a reality so early in life. I'm sure a lot of people are envious of you guys. So we're going to find out how you guys did it. For those in our audience, if you want to get in on this conversation, you have questions for the two of them, you want to know how did they make it happen and how can you make it happen, make sure you submit those questions to us. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching on Webbroker, you can use the questions and comments box to submit your questions to us. If you're watching on our broadcast platform, it's the questions and comments box on the right side of your screen. And if you're watching on our YouTube live stream, you can click on the link in the description. It's going to take you over to our broadcast platform, and that's where you can ask your questions. Okay, so for the both of you, I want to kick things off with addressing some of the common beliefs, misconceptions that young homeowners or prospective homeowners might have when they're saving for a home. And we're going to bust out the whiteboards that I have for you here. We had so much fun doing it last time, so let's do that again.
Okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to present you both with a statement or a question. You're going to write your answer, and then we're going to do a reveal, and you're going to show what your answer was. We'll compare and contrast your answers, and I'll pick out some extra details from the two of you. Okay,
Okay, that's good.
And Joyee, this time remember, you got to write big. Okay, we got to make sure that
This
we
is my favorite.
see it for the camera here. Okay, so I want to get to the first question that we have here. Okay, and the first question I have for you, this is going to be a true or false question, and it's that you can't save your way to a down payment in a major market like Toronto or Vancouver, for instance. You have to invest. So investing is necessary. True or false? Okay, what do we got here? Let's reveal. False. That is a very large text. Thank you for that.
Mine's small
False.
now.
This is good. That's a normal person size font there for sure. But okay, so you both think false. So you can't save your way to a down payment. Reni, I'm curious, like why can't you save for a down payment?
Oh no, I think that you technically you can save towards a down payment, but it will take you a lot longer, right? Especially in a market that is a very high cost of living like Toronto or Vancouver. It's just going to take you a lot longer to get there. So I think it makes sense to make your money work for you and put it in something that will grow much faster.
And Joyee, I'm curious because you were saying you were obviously quite scared to get started. Like, what helped you just get over the initial fear of doing this?
Echoing the same sentiment. I just wanted my money to work for me. I knew that, working hard, working long hours, I can do it, but there's also different tools like the stock market to help me save. And I think what helped me get over the fear is that I just needed a change. I just needed to find a way where I'm not trading all of my time for money. So, yeah.
Okay. Another question for you, not a true or false. I just want to see a number from you. And this is going to be a gross oversimplification, of course. But how much money do you think somebody has to save if they want to buy a home in a place like Toronto or a place like Vancouver, a major market like that? If you had to put an average down payment number that you got to put down, how much do they need to save up? I think everybody in the audience waiting with bated breath here because this is like the big goal that they're going to have to hit.
Okay, now that I've gone house shopping. Okay.
All right, what do you guys got? Reveal. 120 and 80. Okay.
Yeah.
If you average it out about 100K, okay, so we're talking roughly 6 figures. That's a big number, maybe a little bit intimidating to some, especially when you're starting out with nothing. But I'm curious. Okay, so here's another true or false question for you both. Do you think that you need to put down 20% down payment, or can you put down less?
Are we writing this out?
Yeah, let's write this one out.
So no.
I love the reveal.
Yes
I love
or
the
no?
What is it? Wait, sorry. So
do you need
true or false? You need to put down 20%. Okay, so Joyee says false. Okay, so you guys are very simpatico here.
Yeah.
Why do you not need to put down 20%? Why is that false?
I'd say that depending on the type of property, if you're buying a rental property, yes, you need to put down 20%. But if you are buying a residence for you to live in, you can actually put down 5% in Canada. So, obviously, it may not be ideal. Your mortgage will definitely be much higher. So I would say if you are going to choose to put down less than 20%, just make sure you have the cash flow on a monthly basis to cover the mortgage plus all other expenses that come with the house.
Right. So, I guess the flip side of putting down less is that your mortgage payment's going to be higher. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to be able to carry this thing.
Exactly. I think a lot of people are like, oh, let me just get in the market and let me put 5% down. But can you afford the carrying cost month over month? It's more than just the mortgage.
Yeah. So same thing as Reni. I think the lesser down payment you have, the more you have to pay for mortgage.
Yeah.
And it isn't even just the mortgage part you're worried about, but you're borrowing more from the bank. So the interest rates go up as well. Your interest payments, are a larger chunk of those payments.
Well, how about this for you? If you could put down more than 20%, should you put down more than 20%? Basically, is it good to put down as much as you can, or should you try to, just put down whatever you feel like you need to get to a reasonable mortgage payment, and then I redirect the rest of the money elsewhere, but be it in the stock market or whatever else you want to do? What do you think?
I think it depends on you again. I think you have to just realize what the opportunity cost is. So if you put down, let's say 30%, and you really only need to put down 20%, that 10%, could it be doing more elsewhere? So could you have invested it and it will grow at a faster rate than the interest rate you're paying on your mortgage, right? I think that's what you have to weigh. But it's a personal decision.
There's just so many factors, how long do you plan on staying in this property? Because you have to think about the interest. And then are you renting it out? Is it your primary residence? All of these factors, and then opportunity cost as well.
Yeah, and that mortgage payment is important. I've seen a lot of people who are paying $4,000, $5,000 a month for their property, and they're like, I could just be renting for $2,500, and then this extra money I could invest, I could enjoy my life. So we don't want you to be house poor just because you want to buy a house.
The other thing I think a lot of prospective homeowners don't appreciate is that it's not just your mortgage payment. You got property taxes, you got maintenance, and let me tell you, the maintenance, folks, it always creeps up when you really don't want it to. Definitely. And also, if you're not handy like yours truly, it's going to become pretty frustrating pretty quickly. So something to keep in mind. Here's another one that I think a lot of people would ask for you. True or false question for your whiteboards. Do you need to take a lot of investment risk in order to save up for a down payment relatively quickly? Is it necessary to take a lot of risk, or can you take a more lower risk approach? All right, what do we got? 1, 2, 3. False. Okay, false. So this kind of like, I think, bucks a lot of the attitudes that a lot of people might have. Reni, like why? Why don't you need to take a lot of risk?
You don't need to take a lot of risk because, well, okay, the more risk you take, typically the more return that you get, right? Meaning that you'll be able to reach your down payment goal likely at a quicker pace. So it's not like you have to take a crazy amount of risk, but just realize it may take you a little bit longer in order to get to your down payment goal. And that's no big deal, right? As long as you, again, understand the cost of taking less risk.
Yeah, so with risk, I think you're going to have a longer time horizon. So if you're planning to buy your house in the next 2 years, taking risks is probably not the best idea. But if your time horizon is like maybe 5 or more years, then a little risk is better. But coming from my personal side, I mean, I did not want to risk my money at all. I was super risk averse. And I had a dividend strategy instead. So usually in the lower side of risk with dividend stocks. And I was able to purchase my condo at a 22% return, even with dividend stocks, even with the lower risk investment. So I think, yeah, false.
I mean, those are some pretty great returns that you got on the dividend stocks. It was a good time in the market for sure. I mean, that's always the X factor too. I actually did some number crunching myself, and I want to pull up a chart that I did, mostly just to show off my PowerPoint skills. I'm going to be real with you guys. I put a lot of time and effort into this, but if you can see on this chart, I looked at like if you were saving $500 a month, and you had different sort of risk tolerance. So the blue bar being 100% stocks, the orange being an 80-20 portfolio, and the green being a 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds portfolio. Like how long would it take you to get to a 5% or a 10% down payment in a place like Toronto? And what I found really interesting here is that it took you about 6 years, kind of regardless of which strategy you took. I mean, yeah, I mean, you might have to scrounge up a little bit more in the case of the 60-40, but you're still pretty much on track regardless of which one you picked. I'm curious if you guys have any big takeaways from this chart that you see here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Excel sheet PowerPoint, so I believe everything it says on there.
Absolutely.
Especially because you made it.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that it's good to show that, okay, you actually don't need to take a crazy amount of risk in order to get to your goals. Of course, you still need to take a little, like even with 60-40, you're investing your money, you're not keeping it in savings. So I think this is a good way to show people you can take a little bit of risk with bonds and stocks without having to invest in something very risky like crypto, and you'll still be able to get to your goal amount. I do think that, yes, there's maybe 6 years could be a long-ish time to get to your goal. So I think that's also a good benchmark for people to know that, like, maybe I need to either increase the amount per month that I'm investing, or I need to, again, take more risk if I want to shorten that time period as well. Yeah.
And Joyee, I thought you made a really interesting point too about like if you're going to invest in something like growth stocks or something like with a higher risk, you have to be willing to bump out your timeline because if you get poor returns, it's going to take longer for you to recover from them, right? So it's almost like counterintuitive. Like, yeah, you could get there faster, but you got to be willing to get there slower. Basically, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, with my strategy, I mean, I didn't have any other strategy. Dividend investing was my first strategy, but I just knew that I wanted this goal in so many years, and I need to stick to this plan to get to this goal. And I didn't want any surprises, so I was okay with waiting, I guess, longer with my, more safer, smaller returns. So yeah, it just depends on your risk tolerance as well.
Okay. I have one last true or false question for you both. And this is one that I know a lot of folks think about too when they're looking at homes. True or false, buying a starter home still makes sense versus saving up longer and buying like your forever home or a bigger property? True. You both think that. You guys are very simpatico on this.
We are.
I'm going to tease out some differences here eventually. But, okay, so starter home still makes sense.
Yeah.
Joyee, why do you think starter home still makes sense?
I think it makes sense because you want to get your feet wet with real estate. It's such a big commitment. It's going to be, I think, like the biggest investment you're going to make in your life up to that point, unless you buy a really expensive car. But I think getting your feet wet, knowing how, like, the property buying process works, you're gonna know about the property taxes, you're gonna know about really like just home ownership with lesser, I guess, risk or lesser capital that you need to start with. And then, I mean, who knows, maybe you actually don't like home ownership and you're dreading the mortgage payments, you're dreading the property tax bill. And then maybe you just want to rent at the end of the day. Or maybe you love it and you're like, I'm so ready to buy like a 3-bedroom house. And sure. So that's why I think it's still important.
Okay. And Reni, I got a question for you too. Like, do you think, because this is one of the things that we often hear a lot, this idea that renting is throwing money away. Agree or disagree? What do you think?
I disagree. I think that renting is it's what you pay for getting shelter. And I really dislike that comment because there's nothing else that we pay for that people are like, oh, you're throwing money away. Most things, right? So I don't agree with that. And I think in every economy, we need people who own the homes and we need people who are renting the homes, right? So yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, interestingly, last week we had Ben Felix from PWL Capital on, and he did a really interesting study on like, can you buy a home versus renting and investing, the difference that you would have between the mortgage payment and your rent, and like who comes out ahead.
Yeah.
Long story short, it turns out that like I'd be $2 million richer if I hadn't bought a home. $2 million richer in like 50 years. So it's not always the slam dunk case. So it's something to consider. So if anybody out there, if you want to check out that episode, it's on our YouTube page. As well, too, we got a lot of other good stuff going on social. So if you're enjoying the conversation so far, make sure you check out TD Direct Investing on all of our socials. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can get a sneak peek at upcoming episodes and a ton of other content designed to help build your investing knowledge. So now I want to get into your investing strategy now, because you guys both took different ways, somewhat similar, somewhat different ways to get to your down payment. Reni, I want to start with you because this is very topical, because you're actually in the market for a home, you and your husband now, looking to buy a property. So what is the best investing strategy, in your opinion, to get to a down payment if you're going to do it all over again?
I don't know if it's my strategy. Let's say that. So it's our strategy, and basically we are investing in S&P 500 funds. So for us, it's not taking too much risk, but it's also enough risk that we're seeing some good gains. So utilizing the FHSA in order to do that, and then after the FHSA, we have our non-registered account as well, and our savings account as well. So that's what we are currently doing, and it's a consistent, every single paycheck, putting money in there. And the benefit of that is that we're really flexible in our time horizon. Like, we're not like, oh, we need to buy a house tomorrow or even next year, or like, we're very flexible with that. So because of that, it allows us to take that amount of risk. If you know that you want to buy a house in 6 months' time, please, maybe this is not the strategy for you, especially with how volatile the U.S. market is currently. But it's been working.
But I'm curious, why just S&P 500? Like, why not go more diversified?
We want to optimize for gains as much as possible. Yeah. And we feel like I know diversification is good in your portfolio, but oftentimes the more diversified you are, the less gains you are getting. So we were like, let's optimize for the gains. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because you don't know your time horizon.
Exactly.
So.
But again, if you do know your time horizon, then it's always good to diversify and maybe take a little bit less risk so that you can ensure that you meet your goal on time for the purchase date.
And when you say optimize gains, I mean, obviously that's through a historical lens.
Yeah.
We obviously don't know what's going to happen.
Of course. I hope history proves right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing too that we were talking about off camera was that as you get closer to your down payment and actually buying the home, you're going to dial back the risk into things like GICs, high interest saving. Walk me through, like, what's your thinking behind that?
Exactly. So our logic is that the closer you get to your goal, the more that you know, okay, I need to have, let's say, $80,000 or $90,000 or $100,000 for this purchase. So you should start crystallizing your gains, which basically means selling off like, if we have a 30% gain or a 20% gain, then let's not leave it to chance and say, okay, I'm going to sell right before the market, right before our closing. We actually want to get less risky as we get closer to our goal. So that's the approach that we're taking. Again, we don't have a house that we love right now, so we are not there yet, but we will we'll dial back the closer we get to our goal.
Right. So take the risk, like, I guess, as long as you can, and then when you need the money to be there, you want to make sure it's there.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. So the market's not down when you're ready to close on your house. Yeah.
And Joyee, what about you? What do you think is the best investing strategy for saving for a down payment?
Well, I guess same thing as Reni. I love the dollar cost averaging strategy, where you pick a number, you pick a date, and you kind of stick to it every single month. You're investing so and so amount of money into the stock market. Just like Reni said, if you don't have a time horizon and you're willing to wait longer, I guess investing in riskier stocks or ETFs is better than just a really fully diversified index fund instead. And then, yeah.
So you when you were saving for your down payment, you were mostly dividend stocks. And now you're saying index ETFs is kind of the way to go. Like, why the change?
Well, I think for me, looking back, I guess dividend stocks was just like the first type of strategy I landed on. But I mean, there were a lot of like ups and downs still. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I was like able to stomach the ups and downs, but I guess index funds are just more beginner friendly, and the barrier to entry is lower because people absolutely hate choosing individual stocks. That's what I did. I kind of chose like individual dividend stocks, but I guess beginners, knowing that they're putting their money in a very diversified basket, is easier for them when they sleep at night, So, yeah.
Now, another thing you did too that I think is interesting is you stayed essentially like fully invested in stocks right up until the time that you actually like bought the property, which is different than what Reni was saying. See, I told you I'd pull out some differences.
Yes.
Not dialing back on the risk. If you were to do it all over again, would you do that same strategy, or no? You would take the Reni approach of dialing things back.
How did I do this? Well, I would definitely take a page out of Reni's book, where I would actually, now looking back, I would actually realize all of my gains first, and then with that chunk of money, decide what budget I can afford. So when I was buying my first home, I was kind of looking in the market, seeing what I wanted, seeing what I needed first, and then like kind of hoping and praying that I have the money for it. But then this time around, I think I would realize all of my gains, and then with that chunk of money, ask myself, okay, with this much money, what can I afford? So, yeah.
And I will say, for my first property, that's what I did. I did the same thing, where I sold like maybe a week before I closed, or 2 weeks before. Like there was no downsizing or taking less risk at all, and that could have ended up really badly, because actually I closed May 2020, and we all know was it April or March that the stock market crashed. So I could have, like, my whole down payment was no longer there. But my dad told me, stay invested, like it will go back up. Thank God it actually worked out. But I feel like that was maybe my naivete of being 23, but now I'm a bit wiser. And also, the stock market is it seems more volatile right now as well. So
yeah, a lot going on in the world that can definitely make things a little bit more unpredictable, let's say, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the amazing tools that investors today have, which I know all three of us are very jelly of them because we did not have this available to us at the time when we were buying our properties, is the first home savings account. Okay. Take me through some of like the highlights of like, how does this thing work? What makes it so good? Joyee, let's send it over to you.
Yeah, so first home savings account, I wish I had it. It's, and everyone explains it this way, it's kind of like the hybrid between the RRSP and the TFSA, where in your first home savings account, whatever money you put in there and it grows, that growth is tax-free, just like the TFSA. And then it's also tax deductible as well, meaning, like, let's say you make $70,000 a year, you put $10,000 in the first home savings account, you'll just pay taxes on $60,000 instead of $70,000. So you're saving money on taxes, and you have $10,000 that you can invest and grow in the first home savings account. You can invest, I think it was $7,000 in, $8,000?
$8,000.
Yeah. $8,000 in the first home savings account every year, and then I think $40,000 is the limit. Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say though to everyone is to make sure you open the account, because your contribution room doesn't accumulate until it's opened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
yeah.
point.
Good tip.
Let's talk tips, Reni. You got any tips for the FHSA users out there?
Yeah, I would say that just remember that you can only use your FHSA for a house that you are going to live in. So actually, I do have an FHSA right now because my first home was a rental property, meaning I've never lived there. My second home that I will purchase will be a primary residence, so I am considered a first-time buyer under the FHSA. So what I would hate to see is somebody say, oh, I'm going to buy my first rental property, and they've been saving all their down payment in their FHSA, and then they come to pay for it, and then the funds are not eligible to be used for that purpose, right? So I would say that would be my number one tip. As Joyee said, make sure you open the account because contribution room doesn't actually start accumulating until you do open it. And then try to maximize it as much as you can. When I say maximize, $8,000 per year for 5 years is what you get. So if you want to buy a house in the next 5 years, then it would make a lot of sense to open that account and start putting funds in it.
Yeah, one of the wrinkles of the FHSA is that you can only carry over $8,000 a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, you wanna open it up as soon as you can, get the contribution room. But if you don't use it, you're gonna not lose it permanently, but you're gonna have to wait for it basically until more regenerates the next year basically. So it is possible to get into a situation where you're really excited, you open the account, you don't use it that much, and then you have to play catch up basically with the contributions. Something to keep in mind for anybody using the FHSA. Okay, I want to throw something, and this is a whiteboard one for you guys. Okay. What is the optimal order to contribute to all these investing accounts? Because there's all these acronyms flying around. I think people wonder like, do I do this one first or that one first? I would love to see your master plan, how you guys would do it with all the things available. We have FHSA, we have TFSA, I see Joyee making some revisions there, okay. We have the RRSP, we have non-registered accounts too, we have just like regular checking savings. Like there's a lot of options out there. So I want to see what do you guys think?
This could be controversial.
This could be controversial. The suspense is killing me.
Okay, I'm almost done.
Joyee, you ready? What do you got? FHSA, TFSA, non-reg. Okay. FHSA, TFSA, non-reg, high interest savings account, and then question mark, RRSP. Okay, so that's interesting. So Joyee, you don't even have the RRSP on yours at all. Talk me through that, because we talked about the benefits of FHSA. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why is TFSA next, not RRSP?
So FHSA, make sure you max that out if you're planning to buy a home. TFSA growth is tax-free, and with the rules of the TFSA, you can withdraw at any time for whatever reason without paying any taxes, and you get the contribution room back next year. So that would be kind of like the next best account if you were saving for a home. And then the non-registered account, there's no limit to it. That's why I didn't add the RRSP. There's no limit to the non-registered account. Just keep in mind that whatever growth you have in there is taxable. Yeah.
And Reni, what about you?
Yeah, similar reasons. FHSA is the best for buying your first home, of course. TFSA is the most flexible, so once you have maxed out your FHSA, I would prioritize the TFSA. Then non-registered, because as she said, you can invest in it, you can grow your funds, and then, of course, you will pay taxes on 50% of the gains, but whatever, taxes are not a bad thing. And then I would go into the high interest savings account. If you still need cash, then let's take it from our high interest savings account. Not necessary. If you have enough, you can actually just invest it all in the non-registered, but whatever, we'll leave some in cash, right? And the RSP with the question mark. The reason I'm not the biggest fan of the RSP home buyers plan is just because what it is, for those that may not know, is it is where you basically get a loan from yourself, up to $60,000 that you have in your RSP. You can take it as a loan, and then you are going to repay it over, is it the next 15 years? Yeah. So over the next 15 years, you're going to pay it back. I am not the biggest fan of it because I'm like, if I had, basically what I see with a lot of people I coach is they are paying back their mortgage, and then they're also paying back this loan, and they often struggle to manage both of them at the same time. So I would rather save up enough instead of having to loan money from myself, because now I have two loans that I'm dealing with when I close on my house. Yeah.
Joyee, is that a similar rationale, like why you don't have it on there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, home ownership is already hard enough. I mean, you're paying maintenance fees, you're paying property taxes. You don't want to have another debt as well, especially to yourself. And then, of course, I have to talk about the opportunity cost that the RRSP could have been growing if it's in there. But since you're taking it out, it's just opportunity cost there.
But I gotta push back a little bit, guys.
Okay, push back.
Okay, I gotta push back because generally speaking, if you can take out a big lump sum of money with 0% interest rate and you have 15 years to pay it back, you would probably come out ahead, especially if the money that you put towards that, whatever that investment is, in this case the house, presumably is going to appreciate over time to some degree.
Hopefully.
And with 15 years, I mean, like for example, like when you first buy the house, you don't necessarily need to start paying back that loan right away. Of course, that's going to make the repayment bigger in the future, but you buy yourself some time to figure it out. Like, is the loan to yourself, like, it's such a big deal for you guys? You're like, I just don't want to go there. I'd sooner pay taxes than take a tax-free or interest-free, I should say.
It's not
loan.
the end of the world. Like a loan to yourself, okay, it's not the end of the world. If you take it, if that's where you have your money, whatever. But what I find with a lot of people that I work with is that, they don't even have enough for retirement. So you're taking money that is supposed to be for your retirement and you're using it for this house. Yes, that's good. Shelter is important. We need a house, but I think we also need to have priorities. Your unless you plan to work until you pass away one day, like it's very important that you also prioritize your retirement. So that's my logic with it. And again, I've seen a lot of people struggle with paying their $3,000 mortgage plus paying this payment back to the themselves or the RRSP. So that's my logic. Again, it's not the end of the world if you do take it, but I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah,
Joyee?
just two things to consider. The stress of paying yourself back and what if you don't? I mean, you technically cannot have been let go from a job. You technically have to make the same amount or more every single year. Not a lot of people can guarantee that. And then just like, I guess the opportunity cost is top of mind for me.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I can see some of the logic. I will respectfully disagree.
Did you take an RRSP?
I actually didn't.
Okay.
I actually didn't. What did I do? I just used TFSA and savings. And savings. For the reason that you're actually saying, in the sense that, and we actually put down more than 20% on our home, we didn't need to tap our RRSP.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, I won't go there. I'll think about future me as well. Like I'll keep the saving for retirement. That said, if I had needed it, I wouldn't have hesitated to pull it out, frankly.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Hey, like a loan for myself, like I know I'm good for it.
Yeah.
I'm good. Anyway. Last question for both of you. If you were to do it all over again, any mistakes that you made along the way that you would change, or anything that you know today that you would take into consideration and do differently with your strategy? Joyee, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think same thing as I said before. I would definitely sell off all of my stocks and ETFs first before deciding where or what budget I have for the home. Other mistakes, I would invest more because I had a lot of, because I'm so risk averse, I had a really huge cash amounts just in my checking account. And I wish I had invested more of that money. Well, that's hindsight because I generated 22% returns. I didn't know it was going to do that well. But I had a time horizon of 5 years. So I wish I invested more and started earlier. So
yeah, these are things that like always say, if you could start earlier, you're always gonna like do better for it, at least historically speaking. Reni, what about you?
Yeah, I wish I started investing when I was 5 years old. But other than that, I just wish I knew more about homeownership before I went into it. Maybe I don't, because I probably wouldn't have even purchased if I really understood everything that goes into homeownership. So, as a landlord, especially. I don't know about a principal resident, but as a landlord, right? So I think that I thought it was just the mortgage payment that you had to consider. I didn't know. I don't know, naively again, I didn't know that there was property taxes and the maintenance, and thankfully it's condo fees. I also pay condo fees. So I don't think I really understood all of that. And because of that, I also probably didn't price my rents competitively based on all those other factors, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm making much more than my mortgage. But again, the mortgage is not the only cost. So I think that's the thing I would have changed. And now that we're looking for a property and I'm here with open eyes and I know the full cost of home ownership, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not rushing into this. We're taking our time and we'll only buy it if it makes logical sense for us. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you both for sharing your experience. I mean, again, incredible milestone you guys reached. And I think my big takeaway from both of your stories is that you don't have to do anything particularly complex or complicated with your investing. Really, the big takeaway seems to be consistent, stick with your strategy, and just like keep plugging away. Like you don't need to do anything crazy or outlandish. So I think that's really inspiring for a lot of folks. That's it. I'm curious what people want to know more about. So you guys ready to open the floor, take some viewer questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's get at it. Okay, let's see what we have on tap first. This one coming to us from Michelle. It seems hopeless if you're a young person living alone in a low-paying job and can't get a higher one. Is it still possible to do the strategies that you're talking about? Reni, what do you think? Let's start with you.
Yes, I do think it's possible, but it will take you a bit longer to get there. So let's say, using your chart, you cannot afford to put $500 a month in, and you can only afford to put $300 a month, then yes, it will take you longer to get to your goal. But if you are diligent and you consistently invest, you will be able to get there eventually. I do think that one of the best things that you can do for yourself is to optimize for making more money always, right? So I know people don't like to, well, some people like to job hop, but people have like stigmas against job hopping or like changing industries seems like a huge deal, but I think it is one of the most worthwhile things that you can do for yourself. Making more money allows you to reach all your financial goals easier. So
Best investment is investment in yourself,
exactly.
Basically, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Joyee, what do you think? You think it's still doable on a low salary?
Definitely still doable. Well, according to Michelle's question, she can't seem to get a higher paying job. But I think that hopefully what you can do is lower your monthly expenses and then just stay consistent and be really realistic of, the wants in your home, right? Like, do you really need a 3-bedroom? Can you do a 2 or 1? Do you really need to be in this area you're in? Just like all of these things to consider if buying a home is a priority to you.
And I'll also say that sometimes, again, there's a trade-off. Maybe you might have to go a bit further out. You may not have the home in downtown Toronto, but maybe you can afford it in London, as I did. So,
yeah. I mean, the other thing too is like there are options like, what do they call it? House hacking, where you can sort of have like buy a place but have a roommate and subsidize your cost a little bit. Like there are options out there, Michelle. So I know it's easy to feel hopeless. Try to fight that feeling and just like keep your nose to the grindstone, keep at it, okay? Let's get to our next question. This one coming to us from Lavneet. Can you share the details on FHSA? Why do we have to do a catch-up if you do not contribute? Okay, so let's clarify that point about the carryover of the $8,000. Reni, why don't you clarify that for us?
Okay, so with the FHSA, as we mentioned, every year you get $8,000 of contribution room, meaning that let's say you open it this year, you'll get $8,000, and next year you'll also get $8,000, and for the next 5 years there'll be $8,000 of contribution room. So let's say this year you're only able to contribute $2,000, right? That means that for the next year you'll have $8,000, and then $6,000 will be carried over till next year, meaning that's $14,000, right? But the following year, let's say you still only contribute $2,000. This is a lot of math. Let's say you only contribute $2,000, then you'll be able to carry over, $6,000 again. No, $8,000 plus the $8,000 from the next year, right? So 16 max. Even though you would have a lot more contribution room than that, you're still only able to carry over 16,000, right? So that's what they mean by catch up. You have to contribute in that year in order, and you can only carry over $8,000 every single year.
Kudos on the mental math. That was incredible.
There was a lot going
on. But point of clarification too. Again, I think like we mentioned, you don't lose it forever. You just have to wait a little bit longer, and nobody likes to wait, right? So if you can avoid waiting, it's a good thing to do. So hopefully, Lavneet, hopefully that clarifies that. Let's get to our next question. This one coming to us from Ryan. What's the biggest misconception you had about buying a home before you started looking into it? Joyee, what was your biggest unknown, I guess?
Oh, biggest unknown. I think what I said before about your wants and needs, I had like a list of wants like this big and a list of needs like this big as well. And then everything got cut in half, basically, according to my budget. So the biggest misconception is that, and a lot of my followers tell me this, is they start looking at properties and they don't realize how much money they need as a down payment, like 15-20%, when they're looking for their needs. Like, okay, I really want to buy this 2-bedroom in this area with like this type of bathroom and a kitchen island and all of these things. And then they're just like, holy crap, I've been saving for 2 years for this, but it seems like it's just not doable for me. So I think it's really important for everyone out there to kind of like look at the market, look at like what exactly you want to buy, and then compare it to what goal you had in mind for the down payment. Yeah, it was a shock to me.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment.
More questions?
All of a sudden, you're like, well, actually, I think I can make do with this, that, and the other.
Yeah, like I don't need a bathroom. I'll just go down the hall.
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. That would be pretty extreme. Yeah, anyway. Reni, what about you?
Yeah, I would say the main misconception is that the mortgage is the only cost that you will consider, that you need to consider, when it's just way more than that. So we have mentioned property taxes, utilities, furnishing your house is quite expensive, property taxes, what else? Oh, I already said that, but it's a lot, so that we need to mention it twice. Maintenance fees. There's a lot that goes into it. Think about clearing snow if you're not doing it yourself, you're hiring someone to do it, mowing your lawn, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like there's a lot more that goes into it. And when people are calculating their affordability, they're typically only calculating it based on the mortgage cost. So you're saying, okay, I make like $6,000 a month, so I can afford this $3,000 mortgage comfortably. But
Really?
the mortgage is, there's a saying that the mortgage is the least you will ever pay when it comes to homeownership, but when you're renting, your rent is the most you will ever pay, right? So that's something to keep in mind. If your rent is $3,000 and your mortgage is $3,000, those are two very different numbers. So I think that's a big misconception.
That's a nice little like rule of thumb or idiom or whatever like that
Yeah.
to consider. I like that. I haven't heard that one, so that was a good one. Let's get to our next question. This one coming to us from Sarah. How do you think about risk? Were you more afraid of missing out on the market or overcommitting financially? Reni, why don't we go back to you on this one?
Afraid of missing out on the market.
I guess on the market returns, I guess.
Buying.
Sorry, buying a home, yeah. Like missing out on like, if I don't buy a home now, like it's just gonna run away from me, like the price, I think. I think that's what I'm taking away from Sarah's question.
Okay. I think I wasn't dreaming of buying a house at that exact moment. So I don't think I had the thought that, the market's gonna run away from me. I was just like, okay, it seems like a good time. I can afford it right now. So let's put this money in. But I didn't have that scarcity mindset when I was going in that, I won't be able to afford the same house 2 years later, right? So I think that was kind of my approach to home ownership.
Yeah, I think FOMO is very real
Yeah.
when it comes to like home ownership.
Yeah.
But Joyee, what do you think?
Yeah, I had something to add. I mean, and I think about this all the time, but a lot of my followers or people I meet, they're kind of like, I'm just waiting until the housing market crashes before I buy a home. Well, now the market is down, nobody's buying. So why don't you just set yourself up for success in the future, start investing now, and then see in the future what happens instead of just waiting until a crash.
Totally agree.
Yeah, you can always kind of like find a reason to talk yourself out of doing some of these things. Stocks, real estate, any of these assets, it's always interesting. I find that, if you go to the store and you want to buy something on sale, everyone loves a sale.
Love it.
But as soon as like stocks, real estate, anything like that goes down, it's like, I couldn't possibly get in now.
Yeah.
This is the sale that you were waiting for.
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
Good point. Okay, let's get to another question. What do we have on tap here? Another one from Lavneed. So doubling down here. Is there a time limit that FHSA can be kept open for? Is it only 5 years? No, this is not the case. Joyee, can you clarify?
Yeah, so FHSA, I think it's up to 15 years, and then if you don't use it, it rolls over into the RRSP.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's open for up to 15 years after you open the account, or if you turn 71, then it will close. So whichever one comes first, 15 years or 71 years old. And then also, if you do not use the funds to buy a first home within that time period, then you can choose to roll it into your RRSP, or you can choose to take that money out and pay taxes on that money if you would like.
Yeah, that's actually something that we didn't touch on earlier, but it actually is a really good benefit. Open up an FHSA regardless, because you could contribute. You don't necessarily need to prioritize it if you don't want to buy a home, but you're basically getting like free RRSP room that you can just roll over later. So I mean, like, who doesn't want that?
Exactly.
It's another reason why I'm very jealous of the people today that get this account. I don't get that, but anyway, that's a really good point. I think that's all the time we have for questions, but really appreciate you guys fielding all of these and sharing your perspective. It's a really tough journey, I think, for a lot of people to get to that down payment, but hopefully you've helped inspire them a little bit, because it is possible. You guys did something incredible. But hey, even if you don't buy a home in your mid-20s, like, hey, if you buy a home by 30, you're doing pretty well for yourself too, right? I mean, like, you don't have to be as exceptional as you two, right? But in any case, I hope that it was inspiring. So appreciate you both sharing your experience, and thank you to everybody for the great questions. We're gonna have to leave it there though, but make sure you check out next week's episode, because we have a good one. We're actually gonna be keeping the home ownership topic running here. We've got Nav Bindra from Grow with Nav. He's a mortgage broker and a real estate investor who's gonna be sharing some of the FHSA hacks that can help you get to a down payment faster. We're also obviously going to tap his expertise on all things housing and mortgages. He knows, probably forgotten more about housing than I'll ever know, frankly. So we're looking forward to tapping into that wealth of knowledge. Make sure you tune in for that episode. That's all the time we have for this edition of the show. Before we go though, here's a quick note on keeping your accounts safe.
Scammers, they don't just want your data. They want you to panic. Knowing their psychological tactic is the best way to keep your cool and your cash. If you get an email demanding that you verify your account right away or asking for remote access to your computer, stop. TD will never ask for your password or remote access. Check for typos, suspicious links, or email addresses that don't look quite right. If it feels off, forward it to phishing@td.com. Best of all, when you follow your security responsibilities, the TD Online and Mobile Security Guarantee offers 100% reimbursement for unauthorized losses. We've got your back.
Make sure you stay diligent out there, stay safe, and keep those investing accounts growing towards your down payment. Thanks again for tuning in to Inside Investing. We'll see you all next time.
Have more questions? Check out the links to the right and in the description below.